Monday, March 18th, quick session recap here, starting off with ES. So we came into the session with a pretty large gap. Action was quite active, or rather the market was quite active with some heavy buying action during the pre-market and overnight session. We could see a 35-point gap here from Friday's close into today's open. And essentially what I look to establish on a session like this is whether or not the gap is going to hold. You may have heard me refer to like gap rules or something like that in the past. Essentially, all that means is, I'm looking to really establish early on in the session, those first 5 minutes, whether or not buyers are present with this gap and wanting to defend the gap, or whether the move is going to be a gap fill. And in that scenario, we're expecting selling in the first 30 minutes of the session. We'll usually see a red 5-minute bar to open up, kind of a broad sell bar to start the session, and that'll kind of start the push for that gap fill trade. Now, that did not happen today, right? So we see that buying right off the open. Strong buyers present here up through that overnight high. You get the pullback. This did technically make a session low. No real follow through. That's like that undercut type of play that I talked about before. A little bit of a liquidity grab right there. Wyckoff spring, whatever you want to call it. Simple pullback into 10 a.m. and you get the 10 a.m. reversal time. Right on schedule. So market is into session lows. No break of our key level at 52.20. No real follow through, even a VWAP, 10 a.m. reversal time, and you get the push up into last week's volume point of control, which is the 52.40 level. So overall, some decent action today, all things considered. Generally speaking, when you have a big gap like this on a Monday morning heading into FOMC, my thought process is anyway, what is the likelihood that we're actually going to see follow through on this buying, right? We came into the session, and one of the things I was talking about this morning in the pre-market prep live stream was the broadness of that daily bar right through there. So we were looking at a daily bar that was already, 46 points higher from the overnight open, which was last night, Sunday evening. That's almost a 1 ATR move. So we're talking about a 1 ATR move done in the overnight session. We know FOMC is Wednesday. So again, on a day like today, what is the probability that we actually see that continuation higher? For me, it's pretty low. So it doesn't necessarily mean that I am expecting a sell-off or anything like that, but more so a range type of session. So especially once we see that buying right off the open, more or less, I'm expecting the 30-minute opening range to mark the session high and the session low for the day. Now, that was not specifically correct in ES, but that assumption kept me safe with today's range-bound action, right? Not expecting a big sell-off, not expecting a big rally once we have that actual open. Little things like that can really keep you out of trouble. Now, overall, choppier action today. Again, somewhat expected. We do have a couple of good opportunities versus that 52.20 level of interest. Price now coming into session lows here into the close. Essentially what we want to see for tomorrow is how today's low is going to be treated, right? When we zoom out here, we do see a range. Structure has not changed in weeks and weeks. So we're still trading within an intermediate term range. This has been sideways action for about 3 weeks now. And essentially, we just want to be looking at how price is reacting versus some of our near-term and intermediate-term range reference points. So for tomorrow, that's going to be the 52.20 and the 5200, depending on how active the overnight session is. I'll have a particular focus on today's low, again, depending on how active that overnight and pre-market session is. But overall, good follow through from Friday's test of support. You get the bounce, most of it again done in that overnight session, that pre-market session, back up into the near-term range highs, now just kind of mid-range, right? So tomorrow, 52.20, 5200 primary levels of interest. Let's flip over to NQ. Pretty similar. The structure here We see price is a lot deeper within the range. Kind of notable, ES is trading, if we were to compare the structures, we would see that ES is trading up near the 52-week highs. NQ is not there. NQ not quite seeing that buying activity. So the more important level here on NQ is this 18,180 support zone right through here. 18,100 by 18,180 is a big time area of support. You get the break of that area on Friday, late shorts, right? This is why they say never short into the hole. Late shorts absolutely cooked on today's gap higher, especially with that gap holding. Remember, I was talking about analyzing the gap very early on in the session, and you could see buyers just step in there. No sellers whatsoever. So we want to be looking for either some type of opening drive trade right through here or some type of pullback. NQ gave that phenomenal pullback into the 18,300, again aligning nicely with that 10 a.m. reversal time. So you have price near the lows into 10 a.m. reversal time, provided a really strong bounce there, and then from there just sideways, right? Range bound type of session. Now, as far as the structure is concerned, price failed to really show meaningful acceptance above that 18,300 area, which is really what I was looking for today, simply because if we look at the near-term structure, you still have a series of lower highs here, right? There's one high, another kind of stepping lower. So the question is, is this move just going to result in continued selling? Near-term action is bearish, right? Intermediate term action is just neutral, sideways range. And so this is something we need to keep an eye on. We have the time frames not aligning. You've got the daily time frame in an uptrend. You've got the intermediate term in a range. And we have the near term in a downtrend. So like I've said before, anytime you have misalignment among the various time frames there, that's a time to be cautious, to be more nimble, to be really paying attention to the spots that you want to get involved. Most likely selling into those initial targets primarily, and then tightening your trail. You want to treat it a little bit differently because again, the setup is just not that favorable. So some things to keep in mind here. As far as what I'm going to be looking at for tomorrow on NQ, this is the hourly chart. What I really want to see, very similar to what we talked about in ES, is how price is going to be trading versus today's low. And more importantly, into this 18,180 area. 18,180, 18,100. This is a significant support zone. And as a reminder, if we flip over to the regular trading hours chart, this can sometimes give you a little bit of a cleaner idea of what the structure is. When we look at this, what do we see? It's just sideways, right? But the important thing here that we don't want to lose sight of is this unfilled gap right through here. So there was an attempt, right? There was an attempt on Friday, no follow through. Now we see more selling. So we'll see how that shakes out into tomorrow. Again, just keeping it simple, looking at the levels and the reaction versus the levels. No prediction or anything like that. Just want to outline a few scenarios to keep in mind, and then we have FOMC on Wednesday. So definitely can be another slower session tomorrow. Hope everyone had a good session in the index today. We do have a couple of individual names on watch for tomorrow. That's going to be AMD. This one did not show the move I was looking for today, did not even trigger. And so we'll carry this one. It is an inside day today to see if it could actually trigger that setup. And then we do have RBLX as a second day play. There's a daily breakdown. So losing the 200 MA, losing this key area of support right through here. Right, so we'll be looking for continued weakness, some follow through on that RBLX. Still a little bit of an unfilled gap right through here, so that's notable. Other than that, that's about it. That is about it. Overall, a much slower session, but that's to be expected. Like I said, hope you guys played some defense today. Didn't do too much damage. These sessions like we see today, definitely easy to be doing too much. You always want to be careful when it is choppy. So again, hope everyone had a great day. If you have questions about anything, feel free to shoot me a DM. Otherwise, I'll see you tomorrow morning. Have a good afternoon. Later.